And a new topic, something that I kind of learned very recently. Um, a very funny word, very hard to pronounce. It's called glutathione. Okay, well, I hope I got that right. Okay, so actually, the short form of it is also known as GSH. Okay, it is an antioxidant that is found naturally in your body. Okay, it's the body produces it. Okay, and it's produced by the liver and the nerve cells in the central nervous system. Okay, and the basic components of these are these three amino acids. Okay, which is glycine, L-cysteine, and L-glutamate. Okay, L-glutamate. Not okay. So these are also found in any animal. Any animal have it, and even plants have this. Okay, but the L-cysteine is something that you don't get in very large quantities. Okay, and what happens to as we keep getting exposed to toxins, okay, free radicals that are there in the environment. Now, where do they come from? They can come from the air, they can come from the water, and they can come from harmful bacteria that might live in your gut. Okay, sometimes if we eat a little bad food, those guys kind of wake up and they start causing a little havoc. And but they're byproducts. Actually generate free radicals. They're not good for the human system. So no matter what you do, the human body is going to be under constant attack. Every time something is going to come out there. And as we keep modernizing our life, we've got new and new effluents getting out into the air and water, and it's even getting into our food. So there is nothing that we can do but except take the war head on and be ready with our defenses. Okay. So that's a little bit about the science about this. So it breaks down these free radicals. Now, what free radicals are, um, they're components, of course, in your chemistry, you would know, like nascent oxygen, for example, will attach itself to anything that's available out there. And unfortunately, it might attach itself to a healthy cell. It's not always going to attach to a healthy cell, but it can. Okay. And these keep floating through your system and they'll keep attaching themselves. And in probability, maybe 1 out of 100 times, a healthy cell will come along and will go and attach itself there. So, the body is not really aging because of age. Okay, it's not like, okay, you've got some pre-programmed, you live so long, and it's not that. It's not your DNA. It's actually what your body gets exposed to puts a little more strain on what your system should be doing. Okay, and when a healthy cell starts to break down, when it replicates, it may not replicate exactly the way it has to. Even the system for which they've discovered aging is caused because the replication of that cell, there is something that actually goes and monitors what that particular DNA structure is like and reproduces it. But what happens is, after some time, that gets lazy and it doesn't go traverse the whole genome. And finally, what happens is you get a slightly different looking cell, and it could be defective or it could be even better. I don't know, but maybe that plays a part of evolution. Who knows? Okay, so gut health is now becoming extremely important because uh, a lot of the bacteria that's in your gut actually helps produce a lot of this glutathione. Okay, so you have to have good gut health, and it's becoming more and more important that we start treating ourselves with very very good food that will be prebiotic and probiotic. Okay, now just to remember that one of the key components in this cell structure is actually sulfur. Now, I want to emphasize that sulfur is an extremely important component in our body. Okay. Even though they say they're a carbon-based life form, okay, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, but sulfur is also extremely keen in a large quantity because they exist in tissues and many things. So this forms part of creating a lot more other useful enzymes and useful hormones in the body. So you can't ignore sulfur, and sulfur is found in a lot of natural food sources like garlic, onion, avocados, spinach, even watermelon, sometimes even lady's finger. Mushroom is an excellent source for this. Now, the thing is that if you try to, even cabbage, now if you take cabbage and you cook it, what happens is you keep it, let's say, in the fridge for some time, and then when you open that dish again, what happens, you get a sulfur smell. Okay. And it's come to such a point that people are saying, oh, sulfur, okay, it's, and you know what is an extremely good source of this, I think you would have heard of the gas H2S, hydrogen sulfide, right? It has that rotten egg smell. And in fact, when you break eggs, you'll actually get that smell. Now, the quickest way for any substance to get into your bloodstream is through your nose and through your lungs, because there's a direct exchange between the air that you breathe and the cells and the bloodstream through the lungs. Okay. So, so the thing comes to the point is bioavailability. Now, whenever you consume a particular food, what happens is the digestive system is going to break it down. Okay. And so the body will not be able to absorb because it's not available. It's been broken down by the digestive system. So the acids break them down. Okay. So these components, if they do survive the stomach acid scenario and they go down, the good bacteria will start to use these and start to make a lot of these enzymes that we're talking about. So glutathione. Okay. Now, what they usually do is when you're trying to consume foods like this, is always good to have a barrier of oil around the food. It protects, or fats, and sometimes they do have certain um, nutraceuticals that you get, and they are actually coated with oils, so that when you eat it, the digestive system doesn't break it down. It breaks the fat, but it survives the stomach acid and it gets to the gut. Okay. So that's why you got to know every supplement that you might buy. It'll say the body needs it, but it may not be effective simply because the body, the stomach acids are going to break it down. So it's not going to get into your systems in the quantity that you take. So that's becoming a concern across a lot of medical studies now, and they're finding that there are better ways to package a lot of supplements, and a lot of them have things that will not be readily broken down by the stomach acid, and so science is making progresses through that every way. But just to remember that the coating your food with a certain amount of good fats and good oils can actually preserve the amount of nutrition that is actually within that substance, or within that food. So, as we keep going through this, and as I've gone through this whole journey of discovering food and discovering myself, probably about, say, in the 70s, they thought oils and fats were the ones that were killing everyone, but they've become so mistaken. And and the whole medical society has just changed its views on what is actually causing problems, and they definitely started to identify what are good oils and what are bad oils. And uh, I'm sure even people in our own country, they do know that certain oils must be avoided and should not be there in general food. So I do advise people, go and look at the back of your biscuit packet. Go and look at the back of many products that you buy. It will have palmolive in it. Now, okay, they call palmolive as one of, they have a term for it. It's called industrial seed oil. Okay, so that means it's gone through a hell of a lot of processing, and that's all going to be in that oil. So it's not really a natural oil that you're getting. So moving towards more natural oils is always a good thing. Okay, and so oils are something that you need. You can't avoid them. You cannot drink them like Coca-Cola. Okay, you have to have them in certain, limited quantities, but it is essential. You cannot avoid oils and fats. They are very, very essential. And like I told you, the fats are of different classifications that the body needs. If you remember, omega-6, which is a regular cooking oil, ghee, butter, etc., and omega-3. Okay, you find them in flaxseed and you find them in fish oils. Okay, they are very, very essential. And there is another oil or another fat that the body produces called omega-9. And it automatically does it. It takes omega-6 and omega-3 and puts it together and you get omega-9. So there's nothing to worry. As long as you have both of these, we are in good shape. And do go through the courseware. You'll actually find out, various sources of getting omega-3 besides fish oil, mustard seed, flax seeds, and there are many. You just have to keep looking out for them and make sure that you have a little bit in your diet always. Okay, so one way of, if you do buy a supplement for a particular reason, and you're worried whether the digestive system is going to break it down and throw it away because it'll just burn it out. A quick, rapid way to get any supplement into your system is to put it below your tongue. Okay. They call it sublingual. Okay. It's a sublingual method. So sometimes you might just want to do that. But in very severe cases of people who actually go to hospitals and are in shock and they need, a tremendous dose of antioxidants, they actually give them through the oxygen mask. They add whatever is needed, so that it gets breathed in and goes to the blood directly. Of course, intravenous is there, but this is a far simpler, way of doing it. And so you'll see that, emergency medical treatments are also now getting more advanced. And you will find, and sometimes you do find trauma cases where you'll suddenly find some sulfur smell. Actually, what they're doing is they're actually infusing that sulfur gas, either through H2S or whatever, into your breathing system. So you'll actually start to smell those fumes also. So it's a good thing, in a way that people are, and society today is now beginning to understand that a drug can be administered through many means, and some are more effective than the other. Okay, so always taking something in a tablet form may not always be good, or may not be as effective. It might be good, but it may not be effective. So treatments will vary as we go forward. We'll have very, very different ways of treating a lot of problems. Sometimes it could be just like a patch, actually put on your arm or something. So these things are going to evolve, and the science is going to get more and more creative about how they administer a lot of these supplements. Because I think now the world is trying to say, if I can give something that's more natural and not very synthesized, it's going to be a safer bet for the human body to actually absorb that and not cause a catastrophic damage after that. And if it's something that's actually very natural, then your approval processes for that also become very minimal. Because if I say, okay, I'm prescribing water to you, it doesn't have to go through a whole lot of FDA tests and things like that, right? So the same thing happens with the administering drugs. So the more natural we get with the administering drugs, which is, I'd say, food. Okay, so food is slowly becoming your medicine, and a lot of these supplements that we've just gone through in the last 2-3 classes, inner circle calls that we've had, a lot of them are very key in keeping a lot of these lifestyle problems, like lifestyle diseases that we might acquire, hypertension, blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, is on the rise. Okay, I mean, it is not something we can ignore, because every second person is really getting into a very critical stage, and it's happening to a lot of people. So not only is it to prevent, but even if you're in the middle of something where you're actually experiencing these problems, these things are something that you can add to your diets to get it actually start to reverse most of it. Okay, and of course, Prevention is better than cure, but if you have to get into a stage of cure, it will take longer. That's the only thing. And I tell people, don't be fixed. Oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. Oh, I only have a little blood pressure. But that's the problem. If you only have a little blood pressure, the other problems are also knocking on your door. Okay, so don't be fixed about it. This is something that will go through. Every human being will go through this problem. Okay, and especially if it's something that you've been subjected to at a very early age. Now, the studies have shown that insulin resistance actually starts at when you're very, very young. That means in your childhood, if you have developed certain habits of eating or you've been consuming certain types of foods, they can actually progress your insulin resistance. And then the domino effect happens after that. So it is extremely important what we feed our children. And I can't tell you that this is so much more important that you're here and you're actually sitting and doing this course and you've learned so much. This is something that you can actually pass down for the benefit of your family. Okay. Don't try to go to your neighbor's kids and tell them, okay, they're going to throw a slipper at you and tell you, how dare you tell me what my son should eat. Okay, so keep it within the family and keep it with some near and dear ones. So having that, understanding the food, and children only eat or they get habits of eating from their parents. They've observed what their parents and what their grandparents have eaten, what's the style, and they actually absorb that habit of eating. So it's always good to, to develop that good habit, and then your children will automatically learn it and they'll pass it on to their children. So by helping yourself through this journey, you're helping a lot of people within your own family indirectly. They're just watching you, they're observing. And even if you tell them, this is why you should eat, this is why you should eat, this is why it's good, this should have this in your diet, and they will learn it, because they'll always believe that, because whatever parents tell their children, the children think it's truth, because parents are like God. For small children, they believe everything their parents say, and they will always follow it. So it's a good thing that you all guys are here. But I hope that this message goes out to more people in our country, because I can tell you, it's kind of getting out of control. Um, People have lost their regard for food. Some people have subconsciously do it. Some people consciously do it. Some people just continue to abuse their bodies until something very bad hits them, like they'll land up in an ICU or something, and it's too late to wake up from that point. And it's not good for a nation if everyone who crosses 50 years has some ailment or the other. It's going to actually affect our country in terms of productivity, and in terms of strain it's going to put on our medical systems. And not only that, and the advantage people are going to take, oh, there are so many people who are going to have this problem, let's open pharmaceutical unit in this city. And lo and behold, every doctor in the world will be prescribing that new stuff. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the practices of hospitals. They still need to make money. Yes, I do agree. It's a good thing to. So we always have a career and a business so that we can make money. But what we have to give an exchange, and it's an exchange of energy. Money is the medium to transfer this energy. So otherwise, you would be trading potatoes and onions and instead of money, right? So that would be fun. Okay, we do have. Who do we have who's joined now? Oh, Vikram. Okay, welcome. Okay, unfortunately, a bit late, but nevertheless, don't forget you can get the recording of this. Okay, so we were just discussing glutathione. Okay, now a couple of these things, I have a few people that I follow who are my kind of, some of my gurus, and one of them is Dr. Gundry, and he speaks a lot about the kinds of foods that we get, what you should avoid. Now, some of his things are a little extreme. He's very extreme on lectins. Now, lectins are the byproduct of, not by, it's the defense mechanism of the plant. See, when you cut a cucumber at the end, you always rub the side, and you get that white milky thing. That's the lectin that comes out of it. It's a defense mechanism because it can, a vegetable is prone to attack by bacteria and a lot of external things. So it releases this chemical. And he's very much against it. He says you should avoid it completely. But unfortunately, you can't avoid it because lectins are there in almost every vegetable food that you get. Lectins are there even in rice. Lectins are there even in nuts. Okay, the only thing is you can reduce the amount of lectin that gets into your system. That's one. But the other thing that you must remember is that we do have good bacteria in our gut that can actually break down some of these lectins. Now, the only problem happens is if you overdose your system with too much of lectins, then the bacteria will not be able to cope. Okay. Now, if you've noticed, see, many people, if they, let's say they come from, let's say the northern part of India, and they come to, one of the south cities, and they eat in a very typical Kerala food or very typical Karnataka or Tamil Nadu food. The next day, they have a running stomach. So I had to go to the toilet. Oh, I had to go to the toilet. Now, the biggest reason is that they don't have the necessary bacteria in the gut to actually break down these foods. Okay. And it causes a whole lot of havoc in the system for them because body is suddenly confused. Okay. They might have a running, they might have problems for 1 or 2 days, but after 3-4 days, the body starts to learn and it develops its own, and it gets the bacteria that's required from the environment that you're living in. So, I mean, of course, somebody will make it sound like as though it's an earthquake by having lectins. But they only do that is so that you buy their products. Okay. So the only thing I really do say is that a lot of people who tell you about these things, if they're trying to push a product on you, then of course they're going to exaggerate it at some point so that you actually, look into, because if you're not scared, you won't take it. You say, okay, it's a small thing, I won't worry about it. So, so it's a question of how much of fear gets instilled in you. So I'm not here to cause any fear with anyone. Just keep to a couple of simple things that you have to do. Don't overdo it, especially when you're eating vegetables. Make sure they're cooked. That's the very simple thing you can do. Rice, anything. Don't eat anything raw. Now, even if you're taking almonds, it's best to soak it in water and get out the skin, because a lot of that lectin is going to be in the skin. If you're eating one almond, it's not a problem. But let's say you want to eat 40 of them. Okay, you're going to overdose on lectins. Okay, so cook all your food. A lot of vegetables, even tomatoes, the seeds are actually something that are because it's raw, there will be lectins in it. So if you're going to eat a little bit of tomato, it's fine. But if you're going to eat like half a kilo of tomato, then okay, then you better start removing the seeds, or you better have it cooked. Even the same thing, cucumber is quite addictive, but the seeds do contain a lot of lectin also. So you've got to kind of remove the seeds and eat it. Taste all the fun out of it. But like I said, you have to find a balance as to what you're actually eating, and have a variety. That's the more important thing. The more variety you have, this will help develop a more diverse, gut culture in your tummy. So in your gut, actually, so you'll have a lot more weaponry to deal with toxins, to digest food, to build your immune system, and to actually feed back into your system necessary things. Some of these things are really necessary so that it can bring down oxidative stress. It can start to bring down cholesterol. A lot of these things are important. And to remember that these trace elements that you find, selenium, manganese, copper, gold, these are things the body actually needs them in traces. And we can only find that if we just, distribute our food. Or if we can't, sometimes we can't. Sometimes we live in a place where we'll never get a lot of good natural food. Then you'll have to tip yourself into multivitamin and multi-mineral tablets or supplements so that you can augment that. And it's becoming the need of the day because a lot of food is just being produced through fertilizers. Even our animal feed is getting all sorts of corn feed and don't know what else. And they're getting stabbed with antibiotics, and that's all getting into our system. Okay, so we've got to be on our toes.